He says, don't believe a single word that I've said. Don't believe anything that I've said. But don't disbelieve it so much that you don't go and find out for yourself.
From the Errol Fabian studio, my name is Fazeer, welcoming you to episode 9 in the series known as Trini Inspiration. And on this Monday preceding Diwali of 2020, a most unique Diwali happening against the backdrop and in the context of the global pandemic and all of the other challenges and opportunities as well that came our way in 2020. It promises to be a most interesting celebration and a most unique one for that matter. Today we are joined in studio by an esteemed pundit in the form of Pundit Krishen Ramdeen, and without any further ado I would like to welcome Punditji to studio. Namaskar Pundit.
Namaskar, Fazeer. Thank you very much, and namaskar to your very beautiful listeners.
Thank you very much for joining us, for accepting the invitation to be here today, Punditji. It is the Monday before Diwali, and we have a pundit joining us in studio, and not just any pundit, but an esteemed pundit such as yourself. However, we are not here to talk about religion. Punditji, many months ago, sometime earlier this year, I compiled a video entitled Religiosity is not akin to humanity. And the reason for that was that in my own experiences, I had found that some of the most religious people I knew across faiths were not, many times so, the best humanitarians. And that has often led me to question sometimes not the validity, but the practice and the teachings of certain faiths, or is it the interpretation? In that, how can you profess to be someone who is of God and for God? And that means that you're praying, sometimes multiple times a day, offering, conducting your daily offerings, etc. But the neighbors go starving. But you're on your way to church, mosque, or temple, and you may be reciting your surahs or your mantras, but you're passing the neighbors straight. And I put forward the notion that you cannot, at least from my perspective, you cannot call yourself a person of God if you are not first a humanitarian.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it reminds me of the words of a poet, Punditji. Pradip Dada, in a very beautiful sutra, sloka, verse, he says, Ram ke bhakt, Rahim ke bande. Simply says, he says, in the name of religion, Hindus and Muslims have killed each other the most in history, at least in his time. So I totally agree. When you look at religion today, it's better packaged, it's more palatable than it may have been in many years ago, where you had divides not only between religions, but in the name of religion, countries, and to a certain extent even today. But when you think about humanity, when we meet as human beings first, and then all the other labels will come. And if the intent it is to uplift yourself first, and by extension uplifting society, then we must first meet at the personal level before we apply any labels.
Which is the very reason I have invited you to be a part of the show today, Punditji, because the work that your organization, the ISHA organization, is doing is steeped in humanitarian work and other acts of seva, other acts of service to mankind. And when I got wind of what it is that the organization was about, not in its entirety, but the little bit of information that I had to interact with and to get to know the organization, I thought to myself, as simple as the idea may seem, for our country, this is groundbreaking. For a expected religious organization to dare to go beyond the principles of their faith, to to dare to be more than that, and to dare to offer more than that, and to dare to take a much more holistic approach toward development and teaching is revolutionary.
Well, thanks
in the context of this
for giving us more credit than I think we deserve, because we are literally tapping off and feeding off powerful examples that currently are walking this earth and in history, and that transcend the boundaries of religion as well. But I would like to correct you, while many may see us as a Hindu-based organization and may give me the title of Pundit, it satisfies the parameters of perception. But from the way that I transact as a human being and the teachings that I try to share with those who are part of this movement, it's not a religion. It's a way of spirituality is beyond any box of religion. Mm-hmm. And therefore, you would see my eyes twisting when you say religious organization, because
well, that's why I used you
are teasing for a response.
The inverted commas, because I know that it's not a religious organization, but I still had to make mention of it from that perspective, because that is most likely the way it will be perceived when people hear the name the ISHA organization, headed by Pundit Krishen Ramdeen, or in any way at all involving Pundit Krishen Ramdeen. It is going to, at first, be interpreted as, oh, this is a Hindu organization, or an organization that is steeped in the principles and teachings of Sanatan Dharma.
It actually is. It absolutely is rooted in Sanatan Dharma, or the ancient Eastern traditions. But it's only recently, over the past couple hundred years, it got a Hindu context. Sanatan Dharma is beyond any label.
I'm very, very, very delighted that you touched on that, because I wanted to ask you as well, what exactly is Sanatan Dharma? And the way that I would segue into that is, as a Muslim doesn't practice Muslimity.
Yes.
We practice Islam. Hindus don't practice Hinduism. When you're called a Hindu, it's because you practice Sanatan Dharma. What exactly is Sanatan Dharma?
Sanatan Dharma, in very simple language, it's a way of life. And I think you will resonate with the very same philosophy in Islam, because it is a way of life. Our ancestors that came from Bharat, from India, we came from very specific pockets or geographical areas within India. And even that does not fully encompass what is Sanatan Dharma. We have brought snippets of what that really is. You go from one village to another in India, language changes. There are over 120 official languages in India, and between villages there are dialects of those 120 plus languages. And in the very same way, traditions and religious practices have also changed. So we have in Trinidad, in Suriname, in Guyana, those that came across on that boat, that figurative boat, that brought more than just people, but brought traditions and culture and beliefs, does not define Sanatan Dharma. And therefore, if you look at it, you step back and you look at it from a scientific perspective, Sanatan Dharma is intended to help you to live your life, to take you and to connect back with God. There are many ways to do that. And I say this at the risk of being criticized. If you're a Hindu, you're following Sanatan Dharma. If you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Jain or a Sikh, you're also following Sanatan Dharma. Because it's really your path. Whatever is your calling fits within the ambit of Sanatan Dharma.
That's a very beautiful explanation, Punditji, that I think will probably require some more explanation at a later date. But Pundit, Sanatan Dharma is but a small a small measure of the practice of and teachings of the group known as the ISHA Organization. Yes. And the ISHA Organization is really the pretext upon which I've asked you to be on the show today, because I am inspired by what the organization is doing. ISHA, there is meaning in the name. Tell us about the name ISHA.
Well, the name ISHA is actually an acronym, and it goes back to my son, who was born 19 years ago. I always loved the name Ishan, because it was owned by both Hindus and Muslims.
Yes.
Because Ishan in Urdu means the creator. So therefore, the love for Ishan started with my second child, Keshav, Ishan. And then in later years, we built our home, and we wanted to call it ISHA Bhavan, and we did. So our home is christened ISHA Bhavan. And then coincidentally, and there are no really coincidences, it's perfect alignment of events. Yes. I started following one of my recent gurus, Sadhguru Jagi Vasudev, who is the founder of the ISHA Foundation globally. We're not related in any way officially in terms of the ISHA organization in Trinidad, but the word ISHA resonated with me a long time ago. But ISHA now is really an acronym for us. It stands for inspiration. The S is for Seva or service. H is for humility. And the A, it is for acceptance.
There is a lot to digest there, Punditji, and let's take it one letter at a time. Inspiration. How is the ISHA organization inspiring?
Wow, that's a big question. There's a great guru that says, if you want to create a genius, it takes 99% perspiration. Hard work, sweat, toil, effort. Go out and get. But you will not achieve the status of genius unless that 99% perspiration is associated with 1% inspiration. Anything that you're doing, it must come from a place that it's a calling. It's a motive force that comes from within, that causes you to want to keep on keeping on even when the odds are against you. So back to your question in terms of how does the ISHA organization and what we do, how does it embody inspiration? It really starts with challenging the status quo, even challenging a belief system. We've all grown up with our belief systems. As our parents teach us what to believe in, what is right, what is wrong, and if it didn't fit into the confines of those definitions, then it probably it's a misfit, or we label it in a particular way. And the moment that you start challenging and questioning, or you start getting individuals to open their minds up to question what their fundamental belief system is, you get them to a point where they're inspired to find out for themselves. One of my Gurujis, Sadhguru Jagi Vasudev, he says it this way. He says, don't believe a single word that I've said. Don't believe anything that I've said. But don't disbelieve it so much that you don't go and find out for yourself. So everything that we do at ISHA, it is to give you a taste, but give you not too much, give you enough so that you're interested to go find out for yourself. So whether it's religious doctrines, whether it's about experiencing energies differently in yoga, or whether it's helping others and see what that really does for you as an individual, that's the concept that inspiration is built on within ISHA. Challenge it, do it for yourself. And once you get a taste, you're inspired to do it with a different motivation.
Like you, one of the things you had said earlier, you said, with some mild trepidation, knowing that there could be a potential backlash, and I would like to follow suit and offer this. Punditji, I have always believed that not because I am born into a Muslim home does that mean that I have to be Muslim. And the way that I differentiate it in my head, I say to myself, what is the difference between someone who has been indoctrinated versus someone who is a person of faith? And for me, the difference is choice. In that, if I was born into this, and this is all I know, and I've never questioned it, nor have I ever ventured to learn what exists outside of this, then I am indoctrinated. So I may follow this faith, but I can't really call myself a person of faith. I can't really call myself a Muslim. I can't really call myself whatever faith I belong to, because I have just been indoctrinated. This is all that I know. In order for me, and this is my personal belief, to really say that I am Muslim, I believe that I have to learn, yes, the faith, but I also have to learn what exists outside of the faith. And after I have learned what is outside of the faith, I then have to say, okay, I have now come to know all of this, but I still choose this. So for me, it's choice. And I know that that may not resonate well with some people, but that's the way that I process it in my head. You know, it boils down to you making, have you made a conscious decision to be Muslim, to follow this faith, to believe this thing, to follow this lifestyle, to continue this teaching, this tradition, this ritual? Do you understand it, and did you choose it? Or is this just a hand-me-down?
Religion is actually a very powerful thing. Was, is, and will always be. And I say this with total reverence to religion because it serves a very powerful intent. It is designed to bring conformity, to bring orderliness, to share with human beings consequences. So we understand you do this, favorable heaven, unfavorable hell, and therefore you create that level of orderliness in society. So religion was and still is well intended. My concern or my discomfort is when the organization of truth becomes more important than the truth that it is organizing, then you have spoiled religion. Make sense?
Makes perfect sense. So
when it comes to indoctrination or choice, for me it's all choice. It's always about choice. And a good litmus test is, if I am a good Hindu or Christian or Muslim, and I'm indoctrinated and I'm strong in my belief, faith is a good thing. Faith is a powerful thing. Faith can move mountains, as we've heard in many stories metaphorically. But the test of that is, are you making a positive difference in the lives of those that you're touching? And if the answer is anything short of yes, then look again, reassess.
And that segues perfectly into the S in ISHA, because you're talking about touching lives. And what is Seva but touching lives through service to others?
Well, the S is both a play of S. Seva means service in Hindi or in Sanskrit language. Today we spend so much time on ourselves. We're in a pandemic now. It's about self-preservation, making sure that I stay safe, I keep my family safe, my loved ones are taken care of. And we extend the boundaries of how we define myself based on relationships. But that's a big shortcoming in terms of how we grew up. We grew up thinking about me, mine, and what I can get so much more than understanding the balance of appreciating what I get. It is because someone or the ultimate one has given. And if we are instruments of thy will, then we should emulate. My children, I'm a victim of spoiling them. And I always label them in the context of their generation as the entitled generation. Because we want to give our children what we never had growing up, but we forget to give them what we did have while growing up. And what we did have growing up in our generation and our parents and grandparents was an innate disposition to give. Somebody came to your home. You couldn't leave as you did when I came to the studio. Correct. Halwa, tea, water. You must have.
Yes.
That is where our Eastern traditions are still alive today, but it's dwindling. And Seva means, it is a reminder that you must look for opportunities, not only when you go to temple or masjid to say namaskar or assalamu alaikum or good morning, but what about when you're driving past and you see someone in need, but you're late for work or for a meeting, but someone is in distress? Where is the Seva in those opportunities? So at ISHA, what we do is we look for opportunities. We literally go searching for opportunities. So as an example, we every Sunday, and in partnership with the ISHA Organization in Trinidad that does tremendous Seva, what we do is we partner with them, and every Sunday we package meals. We get the children to package meals, and they also go out and assist in distributing meals. Every last Sunday or first Sunday, based on how the weeks run, they would participate in doing another form of charity, which is to go look for families or references where we can bring relief through hampers, grocery hampers and so on. But that's just a glimpse of what we do to embody the foundation of Seva and service.
Punditji, on a previous episode of this show, we featured a teacher by the name of Miss Karen Askarali, who was a victim of gun violence, and she had her face blown off, part of her face blown off.
Yes.
In an incident, an attempted robbery. And a couple weeks later, while she could barely help herself while she was still recovering and while she was in dire financial straits. The first Christmas thereafter, when she was able to walk and go out into the public, she decided to go out and help others because this was her tradition. So she went out to go and help the lesser fortunate, not realizing that she herself had fallen into that category over this period of time and these series of events. But what she said to us was that in that moment, when she reached out to serve others, that was the moment when she herself received the most healing from those series of events that unfolded. And we went on to speak about that in great detail, but while you're here talking about Seva and talking about our duty to serve others, I just interjected that story because I wanted to note how much Seva helps us in turn, and not just helps us, but gives us many times over more fulfillment than anything else we could do.
Well, it should not even be for the desire to be fulfilled. It is to participate in what is known as the law of giving and receiving. It's a fundamental law of the universe. It's a beautiful analogy. When blood within the body stops flowing, it stagnates, it coagulates, it restricts the movement of nutrition to the body, and therefore the body dies. We are bundles of energy within a wider dynamic exchange of energy. Even money, currency, it is a form of energy. This body is a form of energy. Everything is energy. But when we restrict that movement of energy outward, you're literally stopping the flow inward. So the natural law says, if you want to get something, whether it's tangible wealth, position, acquisition of status, whatever it is, if you want that for yourself, help someone else who is in need of the same thing that you want. And in doing that, you open that deluge coming in. It is almost the law of fish and loaves, where you can take a little and feed a lot. You give a little with the right intention, without expecting anything in return. Satwik Dan. Give it to the right person at the right time, knowing it is your duty to give without expecting anything in return. And be ready to receive that deluge. So what you're explaining there, it is the law of the universe. She didn't go out expecting, but it comes, and be ready for it.
And when you are ready for it, when you receive, you should still receive with humility.
Absolutely.
Which leads us now into the H of ISHA. Tell us about that, Punditji.
If we lived with more humility, we would not have a lot of the problems of the world today. Humility is the counter to ego, and our egos get the better of us. Pollution. It is all in the interest of conquering man's willingness and pursuit to be more and to achieve more, which is a great aspiration, but at what cost? The pandemic of COVID-19 today would not have happened if man learned to sustainably live with humility. And you would say, what's the connection? It is really about how you transact with your world. We must walk gently. We must walk gently on this earth, because one day she will recycle us. And if you remember that, go out and conquer your world, achieve, aim for the stars, go out and be the best that you can be. But walk gently on this earth. She's going to reclaim you. Raja bhi jayega or jogi bhi jayega. Whether you're a king or the beggar, same hood.
You say that, I remember a saying that goes something to the effect along the lines of the very said man that walks proudly and pompously upon the earth, right, thinking that the earth is beneath him, soon enough he himself starts to dwell beneath the earth.
Yes.
So what is now your ground eventually becomes your roof, your ceiling at some point in time.
Absolutely.
And you talk about humility in a very unique perspective, Punditji. I don't think I've ever heard anybody explain humility in that regard, especially in terms of being in balance with the environment. Because human beings are the only creatures that I know of that does not exist in harmony with its natural environment. And is it that this is because of our ego, or is it ignorance, a bit of both? What is the reason for this, Punditji?
I don't know that we can differentiate one from the other. It's because nothing is wrong. Man's natural intention, once we have come into this world, based on ambitions and the need to expand, there's a natural intention to achieve and to go out and create more and achieve more. Nothing is wrong with that. And we go back to the richness of Sanatan Dharma or the Eastern traditions that remind you that you must coexist with your environment. Success and conquest and achievement should never be at the expense of creating an imbalance. As a matter of fact, look how much effort we place in, for those of us who are doing home kitchen gardens now in pandemic. Everybody's a gardener now. And we spend so much time cleaning the yard, ensuring that we prepare the right soil, and we plant, and we ensure that we take care of it, and we eat. Do you think if man did not interfere with this planet, we would not have had enough to eat? Do you think not Mother Earth would have provided anyway naturally? But we think that we have skills, we have evolved, we are intelligent, we are the superior of God's creation, which we are not. And therefore, when we put our hands and we cajole Mother Earth, we think that we are great. Mother Earth naturally, or this environment, will take care of us naturally if we allow her to do that.
Just a thought, Punditji. I'm not sure if you're a movies fan. Have you ever seen a movie called The Matrix?
Absolutely.
So what I loved about The Matrix was the fact that the Wachowski brothers compiled this movie, and most people saw it as science fiction. But this was their amalgamation of their years of study of comparative religion. They studied most of the major religions on the planet. And their end synopsis was this movie called The Matrix. And we're talking about being at one with the environment. And I remember this scene where Mr. Smith was interrogating Morpheus before Neo rescued him. And in the interrogation, he said to him that human beings are the cancers of this planet, because they are the only creatures that do not exist harmoniously and in balance with their environments. And from that movie, and in that moment, it got me thinking, this is really true. When we have a cancer of the body, this is exactly what the cancer does. The cancer keeps going and going until there is nothing left to conquer.
Apoptosis, it does not know when to die, so it will continue multiplying.
And Punditji, would it be incorrect or offensive to say that this is what, or is comparable to what man has become to the planet?
Well, let's take that same example and flip it around. Instead of saying that if you're not in alignment with the environment, you're a cancer, look at it the other way around. When you are in alignment with the environment, and I'm not referring literally to the 5 elements, I'm speaking about generally with your total environment. When we learn to become in alignment with the environment, we become masters in the truest sense. This is what the yogis are aspiring to. And let me give you a good example. If we're in Errol Fabian's studio,
right?
So I want Willie's. Willie's still exists? Free advertisement for Willie's. So I want Willie's coconut ice cream. I have many ways I can get it. I can leave you and say, Fuzz, I'll be back. I go to the shop, buy Willie's coconut ice cream, and I enjoy it. The second way I can say, brother, please go get me some Willie's ice cream. I'll wait here, and I'll get it, right? But the third way is that I can think, I can intend to have Willie's coconut ice cream. And somebody will knock on this door and walk in and say, here, Willie's coconut ice cream. When you are in tune with your environment at the ultimate level, you have the ability to manifest. So it's the other way around, not just the cancer. If you're not in alignment at a very simplistic level, we destroy the planet. But when you're totally in tune and in alignment with the energies, the wider energies, which is yoga, union, you can manifest.
So Punditji, is it fair to say that when you hear people say that, oh good, you know, I only think about this thing and look it happen, or only...
Absolutely. Explore it.
Does that fall into that category of manifestation?
Well, we started by playing with the word coincidence. There is nothing like a coincidence. Coincidence in mathematics are when two lines perfectly come together. And that's a perfect coming together, and we see the lines coincide. When we label events as coincidence, it is not a haphazard or an ad hoc event. It is the perfect alignment of things that we did not put together. In hindsight, we realize, it's a coincidence. But if you investigate what caused that coincidence, you would realize, and you would start searching for yourself, understanding the energy alignment. It is a taste of what you can do if you harness that alignment with the wider energy. It's manifestation. Willie's coconut ice cream.
If somebody were to walk to that door now, knock on the door and offer me some Willie's coconut ice cream, I would graciously at this point in time accept. And that is what the A in ISHA stands for, accept. But I ask the question, is it acceptance of self, acceptance of others? When we talk about acceptance in the context of ISHA, what does acceptance mean?
We grew up with biases. I like this, I don't like this. This is right, this is wrong. This fits into my stereotype of acceptable. That isn't. This is beautiful. This isn't. We have been conditioned, we have been calibrated to perceive life through the lens of our lens, perceive life based on biases. Acceptance within ISHA, it forces you to challenge those biases by first recognizing it as a bias and then breaking down that glass ceiling. And when you can do that, the natural outcome of that, it is to accept. Not that you accept people doing wrong things, and I'm saying wrong meaning hurtful things or unrighteous things, and it's not to accept that. But you see life for what it is. Drop the biases. A man killing someone, is it a good thing or a bad thing? And if you say that crudely, you'd say, oh, killing someone is not a good thing, it's wrong. But if that man is protecting, or that person is protecting his family from criminals and rape and molestation and all the things that we're hearing about in the news, it's a crime not to defend your family. The point I'm making is, think about all the things that we have labeled as right and wrong, or as fitting or not fitting into our stereotypes. And if you stop judging, first by recognizing it's a judgment, you are now opening the doorway of accepting something new. My Guruji says, don't even, in your pursuit towards understanding and exploring the higher, whatever that higher is, God, Allah, Bhagwan, Father in heaven, Mother in heaven, Papa Shiva, whatever you want to call it, the moment you conclude that I know God, or I know it, you have now restricted your availability, or that availability to you. Don't ever conclude. Keep searching. Acceptance means I do not know enough to judge. And if I keep that open mindset, I'm much more willing to accept the experiences that will come my way.
And it is the open mindset of the ISHA organization, Punditji, that is allowing you to take such bold steps as to say that in Sanatan Dharma,
interracial marriages, homosexuality, what's your bias? We have all grown up with biases, right? Drop them.
In Sanatan Dharma, I heard you mention that in Sanatan Dharma, there is no place for putting your parents into an old age home. Have the very said teachings that you have explained to us about ISHA, have they informed your decision and the ISHA organization's decision to say that, yes, we practice Sanatan Dharma, and yes, we understand, but we also understand in the context of the present day situation, what's happening, what we need to respond to, the challenges of the day. And ISHA is working toward the development, the construction, and the opening of a home for the aged, for the elderly. Now, there are some who are purists who may say that this is blasphemous, just the notion of it, much less the construction of it and the putting it into place. What is your reason for this, Punditji?
A few years ago, I was invited to go pray for someone in a home. It was a godson whose Aji was on her deathbed. And it was my first experience going to a home in Trinidad. And when I got there, I left more depressed than anything else. Not because of the condition of the person, but the condition of the environment that that individual, and by extension everybody else who was there, what they were living within. Sanatan Dharma does not propagate putting our parents in homes. It propagates a responsibility, a duty of a child to ensure that we take care of our parents and grandparents. But the reality is, it exists. So if we are confined to saying Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma does not propagate it, I could say it from now, I could say it 1,000 times over, and it will not change the reality of what's happening out there. And therefore, what we're trying to do, it is not to create, even calling it an elderly home is restricting what we're intending to do. It is to create a facility, a space, where it is almost as though it's a resort, because it will be comfortable, it will be free healthcare, it will be a place where you can walk out and enjoy the birds and the environment and literally touch your feet to the ground and deplete your negative charge. That's what we're wanting to create. So it is not about encouraging putting parents or elderly folks within homes, but rather, if it must, whether it's not within people's means, whether it's circumstantial that people end up in these facilities, why not create an opportunity for it to be, if those are their last years, why not be something beautiful?
And this is one way that I've learned that the ISHA organization is doing so much that could also fall into the category of national service, because you are here to serve humanity. Regardless of what form that humanity comes in or manifests in, you're here to serve humanity. You're serving your members and you're serving the wider community, and in this particular instance, you'll be serving those who are at an age where they maybe cannot serve themselves or the family cannot serve them properly. But in terms of serving your members as well, Punditji, you're churning out students. I use the word churning loosely, but you're producing students who are students of Sanatan Dharma, yes, but they are also students of public speaking and other life skills.
Yes.
And this goes beyond, I know we're talking about labels, but this goes beyond the labels or any labeling of a mind that would expect a certain thing from a group that goes by a name of ISHA and that practices Sanatan Dharma and would be pigeonholed into being a particular thing, the thing that we've always known. You're daring to do more and take a much more holistic approach. Is this what ISHA is about? Is this how the ISH and A that you have just described, is this how they all come together and are put in practice?
Absolutely. The vision of ISHA Organisation Trinidad, it is to build community by increasing the capacity of children, one child at a time. That's the vision of ISHA Organisation. And by that I mean children from the age of infancy to the tender age of whether you live to 80, 90 plus. Because I am a student of life, and by extension, everyone who participates in the activities of ISHA is now following that discipleship of being a student of life. Not a student of mind, a student of life. And everything that we do within the ISHA organization, it is geared towards building balanced, well-meaning, value-added citizens of this country. First, this country. Then you can go out and contribute to the wider context. And therefore, what we do, it is about teaching you life skills. We will teach you formally the Dale Carnegie methodology of public speaking. We have had children and many testimonials now where they started with us, and they were afraid to even have a conversation, far less to contribute within their classroom settings. Now, those same children, They will stand or sit before an audience of 1,000 plus, or an audience, virtual audience of thousands plus, and they will debate, they will articulately and eloquently speak on subjects even that, as part of their test, is to talk about things that they don't know, just to test their ability to be creative and articulate and expressive and engaging. As an example, but it's public speaking, it's charity, it's health and wellness, it is about being environmentally conscious. It's all of it. It's the full learning music. Of course, we encourage the learning of the traditions that we call religion. A lot of what we do has the religious base to it. So you learn all of it. And at the end of the day, Fazeer, when you grow within what we're creating within the context of ISHA, it is to become, when you go out into the working world, you must learn to deal with time management, discipline, conflict management, the ability to work within a team, all of it. And that's what we're trying to give a child that comes through and participates in the activities of ISHA. It is all of it. It's a complete basket of balanced life skills.
It is a hope of mine, Punditji, that even though I understand that ISHA is not a religious group, it is a hope of mine that possibly religious organizations may be able to draw inspiration from the work that the ISHA organization is doing and be able to broaden their horizons. It was something that was very hurtful to me when, during the pandemic, I noted that there were many mosques and churches and temples whose doors remained closed. And I'm not talking about closed to worshippers, because at that time there was the national ban, preventing persons from worshipping. But there wasn't a ban that did not allow for these organizations and institutions to open their doors to become a collection point for humanitarian services, for distribution of clothes, distribution of food and other essential supplies. Even if you couldn't service the entire community, you could have serviced your community. And I felt that it was a failure on the part of those organizations who kept their doors closed, and who did not respond to their communities. Because growing up Muslim, I've always been taught to believe, Punditji, that the masjid is supposed to be the center of the community. And the center of the community does not mean that we only go there to the masjid according to the Islamic faith to pray 5 times a day, and whenever there are special functions or a Sunday school class, or that you go just at those times. It means that if you have to be the hub of activity and the center of the community, for me, it means you must be the center of learning, whether it's religious or secular. It means that you must be the central point for socialization, the central point for humanitarian work, the central point from which the lifeblood of the communities connect. This is the central meeting place. And I feel that we have become, I fear that we have become so myopic in our view of what we are required to do, not just as Muslim, Hindu, Christian, but as human beings who are practicing particular faiths.
Yes.
That we're focused only on the rituals of religion and worship, and not on the humanitarian measures of it all.
So with all due respect, acceptance. What makes up an organization? It's human beings like you and I. And when the COVID pandemic became a thing, because of the uncertainty that surrounded what is it? How do I get it? How do I protect myself? And the implications of death, and descriptors such as it's almost as though you're drowning on the own fluids, your own fluids within your lung. Those are very horrible descriptors of death. So what kicks in? Fear. It is self-preservation, it is fear, and how do I secure myself and my family? So I will take a different approach to saying many organizations didn't. Yet some did. So I can't fault an organization, because the human tendency, whether you're the leader or follower, it was self-preservation out of fear. But there were many individuals and many organizations who saw the same experience of the COVID-19 pandemic as an opportunity. I remember within the first couple of weeks, a couple of our members lost their jobs, literally lost their jobs, or would have had cut in salaries. And it was a heart-wrenching reminder to me. They came and said, Punditji, how are we going to help people at the end of this month? Hamper time is coming. And these are families who are concerned about how they're going to feed their own families. But something inside of them bubbled to remind me that we still have a responsibility. If we think that we're badly off, there are others worse off. So I will not criticize organizations because it's a human tendency to self-preserve. But at the same time, while ISHA has, I know of many, not Hindu, but many Hindu, Muslim, Christian organizations that open their doors. Acceptance.
Punditji, you're such a diplomat. You are indeed such a diplomat. My real line of questioning in that regard was really to ask the question, let me get it full circle, to ask the question, Punditji, how do we then, for those who did not open their doors, how do we open their hearts or their minds for us to all be able to get to the point where we can open our doors, where it's not just about self-preservation in that moment, but just like others are saying, yes, I understand self-preservation is important, but service is also important. How do we cultivate that mindset is the real question.
Baba says it this way, be simple, be a sample, and be an example. And that's the only way. I must be the example that I want others, even if it's by osmosis, that some of those traits will benefit them, or will rub off, or will inspire them. We can preach how much we want, we can chastise how much we want, unless people are motivated. Something shakes within them, something resonates within them to do it for themselves. It will not stick. So the best way that I know, Fazeer brother, it's just be that example. And be it in such a way that you can inspire others to do it. It will happen. I may not be able to change the world, but I want to have fun trying.
Punditji, I love that. And I hear your message loud and clear. So the next time, and this is a personal growth moment for me, so the next time, instead of me getting worked up or upset that some other has not opened their door, let me be the one to open mine and mind my business and focus on me opening mine and be that example, as you said, that could hopefully inspire them to open theirs as well.
Somebody asked Mother Teresa in her last days, let's come support a march against war. And she says, no, I will not do that. She said, but invite me to a march in support of peace and I will be part of it.
Beautiful. So it's growth moment again, just shift in perspective. Punditji, before we end off today's conversation, how can I connect with the ISHA organization? I am also well aware of the fact that you and the organization were raising funds recently to complete the construction of the facilities that you have mentioned. Is it that you are still in need of assistance? If so, how can our viewers interact or connect with you to offer assistance? And how can they interact or connect with you to become involved altogether?
Well, the short answer is we are definitely in need of support. And I'm not saying funds, support to complete the project. So we have defined completion in 3 phases. For phase 1, it is to start use of the basic facility that we have started. Phase 2, it is to enhance it to do other things with respect to a meditation hall or open deck for just whatever, even if it's for self-defense. But there's a phase 2 of the project that looks at the wider, beyond the building use, the facility for the elderlies, the playground. There's an agricultural area that is defined so that whatever is eaten on the site is grown. Partnership with the farmers in the environment so that we can symbiotically exist. Phase 2. And phase 3, we're asking the support of the government to help us with access roadways and drains and so on, so that it becomes a comfortable trek to reach the ISHA ashram. So yes, we're still in need and for different phases. We are almost there on phase 1, good news, but we're almost there, still in need of support. How can you reach us? You can email us at krishenramdeen@yahoo.com or ishabhavan@yahoo.com, or you can reach us on Facebook, Krishen Ramdeen and the ISHA Kirtanacharyas. You can visit our Facebook, our internet website. ishakirtanacharyas.com, and there's a contact us feature there. There are many ways that you can, or just drive up to the ISHA ashram and you will always see one of us on site doing something.
I will try to ensure that I get all of that information from Punditji and make sure we leave it in the description below or pinned in the comments as well, comment section as well. I would like to thank you very much, Punditji, for accepting the invitation to join us on the show. I'd like to thank you as well for sharing so freely of your knowledge and your wisdom. I also want to thank you as well for coming here today and not just sharing inspiration with the wider nation listening on, but for inspiring, educating, and when necessary, correcting me as host as well, and allowing me.
My apologies. Does that mean I'm not invited anymore?
It means you have an open invitation. But you know, I mentioned that specifically, Punditji, because even as the person who has the opportunity to chat with you now, even in this moment, I am student, and the role could just as easily be reversed.
Absolutely.
But in this moment, I am student. And even in this moment as host, I have to acknowledge that I am student. And I have to, and which is why I zoned in on the moments earlier where I felt like I needed to make mention of the fact that this was a growth moment for me. This is a moment where I'm experiencing a paradigm shift in perspective, thinking, new knowledge entering, and I thank you for that as well.
I thank you for hosting me, for being such a kind, both you and Asma. Absolute pleasure being here. Thank you, and thank you to your viewing audience.
Thank you very much, Punditji. This has been episode 9 of Trini Inspiration from the Errol Fabian studio, which is not yet labeled, but God willing, in due course it will be. I want to thank Pundit Krishen Ramdeen for joining us. Shubh Diwali to you and yours in advance 2020, and God willing till next week Monday. Bye bye for now, and God bless.